We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, July 9th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're watching News Generation. Today, we're joined by Kwon Ji-hyun.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, and Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. As usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. As the weather heats up, many of us are starting to crave cool, sweet drinks. However, you better watch out because these beverages often come loaded with sugar. New research by the Seoul Metropolitan Government Research Institute of Public Health and Environment released on Monday revealed that a smoothie on average contains 52.2 grams of sugar, which is equivalent to 17 sugar cubes. This exceeds the World Health Organization's maximum recommended daily sugar intake for an adult of 50 grams. The study analyzed 93 smoothie drinks from various coffee and beverage stores across the country. In other news, Samsung Electronics' largest labor union, the National Samsung Electronics Union, started its first ever strike on Monday after unsuccessful wage negotiations with the company. According to the union, over 6,500 out of its roughly 30,000 members, mainly from the semiconductor sector, have pledged to join the three-day strike. This is likely to disrupt the company's chip production lines. The union has also warned that if an agreement is not reached soon, another strike will begin next Monday. The Korean government is ramping up efforts to enhance the safety of personal mobility vehicles, such as electric scooters. On Monday, the Ministry of the Interior and Safety announced signing a relevant agreement with the Transport Ministry, National Police Agency, Korea Road Traffic Authority, Korea Transportation Safety Authority, and 10 personal mobility vehicle companies. One key measure in this initiative is reducing the maximum speed limit from 25 kilometers per hour to 20 kilometers per hour. Additionally, the plan includes stricter monitoring of drivers who break safety rules, such as those who do not wear helmets, and increasing safety education for vehicle users. So here in the studio, I want to ask you guys, have you ever ridden these personal mobility vehicles? And what do you think about these new measures rolled out by the Safety Ministry?
Personally, I haven't ridden one myself, but I do understand the dangers of what comes with these public sorts of transportation and these electric scooters. However, in the past, they've kind of said time and time again that they will make a change to the rules and monitoring of the people who are riding them, including wearing helmets, speeds, where they should ride them, etc. But to be honest with you, I haven't seen much cooperation from the citizens. To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen anyone wear a helmet on one of those scooters before. This is just from what I've seen. Maybe you have seen it differently. But it sounds like to me that they're echoing what they said a couple of years ago when there was this huge debate about, you know, whether they are a good thing, whether they are a bad thing, they're dangerous, etc. Let's hope this time they are a bit more strict and they do follow through and the citizens do actually follow the rules. But I don't know. It seems hard to believe that they will.
I do hope that we'll see some changes this time because we've witnessed a lot of accidents caused by these electric scooters. They're really fast. They can even harm pedestrians as well. So, Jiyeon, what about you? Have you ever tried one of these vehicles?
Yes, I have tried before. Well, electric scooters are indeed convenient, but the increasing speed and lack of safety measures have made them quite dangerous on roads and streets. So lowering the top speed is a wise decision to help reduce these kind of accidents. It's particularly concerning that many young users who often don't wear helmets are involved in these accidents and incidents. I once rode an electric scooter before, and while it was enjoyable, the reduced speed would make it easier to handle the scooter. I remember feeling a bit uneasy about how fast it could go, especially in crowded areas. And my friend got stopped by the police for not wearing his helmet, which highlighted the importance of safety precautions. So by slowing down the scooters, enforcing helmet use and providing education on safe riding practices, the government is taking crucial steps to ensure these devices are safer for everybody. So these measures can actually help electric scooters remain a convenient and safe transportation option. So when it comes to safety, slower is absolutely better.
Right, slower is better. So with the enforcement of new rules like these, I wish that we could see more people riding these personal mobility vehicles more safely. And that was our news feed for this Tuesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. So over the past few months, we've covered Korea's alarming drop in birth rate several times here on NewsGen, with the country recording new lows in its total fertility rate, both for last year and the first quarter of this year as well. Take a look at the screen to find out more.
We are facing a state of emergency. A few weeks ago, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol officially declared the country's population crisis, triggered by the plummeting birth rate, as a national emergency. The government, promising a comprehensive pan-governmental approach to tackle this issue, rolled out a new set of measures during the meeting of the Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy. What are some of the key areas of focus, and what do millennials and Gen Z think about these measures?
Right, so let's first begin by examining the urgency of Korea's low birth rate once again. So Walter, how serious is this issue?
Yes, so on the 19th of last month, President Yoon Suk-yeol declared a national emergency on population and vowed to mobilize a nationwide comprehensive response system until South Korea overcomes this low birth rate issue. So let's hope it does actually overcome. Currently, the country experiences low birth rate rates each year, dropping to 0.72 per woman last year. Now, although there was a 2.8% increase in births compared to the same month the previous year in April's population trends, analysts attribute that there should be no further room for a decline in our birth rate, because it's going to get much worse if it does.
Right, and considering that around the total fertility rate should be around 2.1 in order to maintain the current population of Korea, the number we're seeing right now is really serious. So given the severity of the issue, the Korean government announced new countermeasures on the same day, June 19th, called Measures to Reverse the Low Birth Rate Trend. So Ju-young, could you share some of the main areas of focus and some of the key initiatives of this plan?
Of course. Well, as Walter has mentioned earlier, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol declared a national emergency on population. To summarize the government's announced measures, the focus is on balancing the work and family life, childcare and housing. So according to Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy, to achieve work-life balance, the government will increase paternity leave, aiming to raise the current rate from 6.8% to 50%.
Wow.
Raise childcare benefits and increase subsidies for replacement workers, covering for those on childcare leave. And for childcare, public childcare service will be provided for children aged 3 to 5 free of charge. And the government has also expanded childcare services for childcare support, and they are expanding after-school programs at primary and elementary schools throughout the country. And housing is also a very important issue here. Households with newborn babies will be given priority to buy houses and will be provided with additional application opportunities, while low interest rates loans will be offered to newlyweds for both home buying and renting. Last but not least, the government aims to provide enhanced preferential interest rates for each birth as well.
I see. So a lot of initiatives that the government has put on the table, but this isn't the first time the Korean government has unveiled plans to address the declining birth rate. So Walter, I want to ask you, how do the new measures differ from the previous ones that we've seen in the country?
Right, so in the past there was an increase in government funding like there is now as well, but I think the government thought that money was the main reason why people are deciding not to have children. And there is some truth to that a lot of people are blaming money and the money situation for not having children, but that's definitely not the only reason, and there are many more reasons because people just don't want to have children. However, I believe there were things such as payments on having a child. As soon as your child is born, you receive payment, monthly payments to help with the cost of raising a child, of course. Also, if you have more than one child, you are able to get more benefits as well. There was even the outlandish idea that they were throwing around international maids coming to South Korea to encourage couples to have families, which I didn't think was a very smart idea, but at least the government has been trying everything they can to improve our very, very rapid decline in birth rate.
I think that we're seeing some difference in the new plans this time because, as you mentioned, the plans announced before were mainly focused on providing cash incentives or funding, but now they are trying to expand maternity and paternity leaves, a lot of other areas of focus that the government has announced. Now, it's been almost 3 weeks since these measures were announced by the government. So, Jian, I want to ask you, what have been the reactions from experts in birth rate or population and just the responses from the general public?
Well, many people actually positively assess the government's focus on structural issues rather than the simple cash support in response to the National Population Emergency Declaration, recognizing it as a strategic move towards sustainable population growth. However, many experts point out that the policy targets married regular employees in certain sized workplaces, companies, neglecting the social and economic disparities faced by young people. And many observers point out that the government's strategies may not align with the preferences and priorities of the MZ generations, who prioritize different aspects of work-life balance and social contributions.
So a lot of mixed reactions from the public and from experts. Now, I want to ask you, to our panelists, as parents yourselves, how do you kind of view the government's recent plans to tackle the low birth rate? Do you think that it resonates with the realities of raising a child?
Well, any help is great from the government, I have to admit. I do think these new policies are very helpful, and but I would say I'm a little skeptical and have some small problems with some of the policies that they're bringing in. As Jihyun mentioned, to achieve work-life balance, the government will increase paternity leave, aiming to raise the current rate from 6.8 to 50%. Now, I find this one really hard to believe given the society that we live in Korea. Though the government has given these policies, will companies follow through with them is my concern.
Right.
I say this because the government has actually implemented a 52-hour work week, maximum work week for most companies, but I know a lot of people and many companies that are, still working over that 52-hour work week. So it doesn't really come down to the government. It's not really the government's fault. It's the businesses that are actually, stopping people from sending the parents home early to pick up their children from school, etc. Public childcare services will be provided for children ages 3 to 5 for free, but in my opinion, that I assume that this also includes things like daycare. Now, if you're not aware, daycare is something that is almost like a lottery. You have to basically put your daughter or son's name in before they're even born to a public, childcare service, and you're not even guaranteed. There's a lot of private daycares out there, but a lot of parents want to send their kids to the public daycare centers,
right,
and they're almost impossible to get into sometimes. So I think if they increase the infrastructure, maybe that will help with managing children a bit more as well, and maybe that will encourage other people. But yeah, I'm a little skeptical.
Well, I hope that these practical advices from an actual parent, the government will take account and kind of implement new measures in the future. Now, what about you, Jin? You have 2 kids, right?
Yes, I do 2 sons.
Right.
Well, I reckon the government's measures to support childcare have positives and negatives aspect at the same time. Well, the increase in cash support and focus on structural issues are good steps, I do believe so. However, targeting only certain groups like regular employees in large companies could leave out the others who also need support. It's quite important to include diverse voices, especially from young women and those facing economic challenges. Overall, while the policy aims to address the declining birth rate, it should ensure broader support for all who need it.
Right. So as we've heard from both of our panelists who are parents, now to broaden our discussion, we're going to invite a Korean Gen Zer to our talks right after this break. So today we're joined by Baek Seung-min, a Korean Gen Z in her 20s. Welcome, Seung-min, to the show.
Hi guys, thank you for inviting me.
Great, it's lovely to have you. So Seung-min, let's kind of start with a personal question. Do you have plans to have children in the future, and could you share your reasons?
Well, to be honest, I don't have specific plans at the moment, but I can say that it's not up there on my priority list. Even if I do decide to have kids, it's probably gonna be like one. And there's multiple reasons, but the biggest one for me is that I want to focus on my career. I want to be able to spend as much time as I can on what I do, which I'm passionate about. Also, I think it'll be a while for me to become financially stable enough to raise a child. Not only am I pursuing a doctorate degree, but with the current housing crisis and the budget for academic education, I don't think I feel like it would be realistically possible for me to have a child in the near future, both money and time-wise.
I understand, Seung-min. And what are your thoughts on the Korean government's recently announced plans to boost the low birth rate here in South Korea?
I do feel like there's an increased amount of, both media and government attention on the birth rate issue, but I'm not entirely sure that the attention is being translated into effective legislation. I mean, I can kind of tell that, they're trying, they come from attempts to really relate to the difficulties or concerns of like my generation. And I agree that, direct and indirect financial support can really help, certain groups of couples for whom, money is a big issue for them, not being able to have kids. But I'm not sure if, I myself feel more encouraged to have kids with these plans. I still feel that their approach is more surface level and separated from addressing like the real causes, like structural and cultural ones that not just prevent me from, having kids, but make me not want to have children sometimes.
Well, it's quite interesting that you've said that, I'm glad that you are focusing on your career and everything. But what kind of policies do you think would be needed for maybe to convince you to or encourage other people out there to have more children here in Korea?
As you guys mentioned as well, I think one of the biggest things is efforts to unstigmatize maternity and paternity leave. Like, even if there is like a big policy on it, if it's not carried out, I don't think it's very useful, right? So trying to bridge the gap between the policy itself and the environment that it's carried out in, I think is very, very necessary. And just overall attempts to make, work environment much family friendly, I think would be very important. Other than that, I think when it comes to this birth rate issue, the general and the overall is the most foremost and important, I feel. Boosting welfare for all generations, decreasing work hours, as you guys mentioned as well. Also increasing awareness of, the rights of women workers, something like that. But also I'd like to see the government address other aspects as well, not only financial, not only labor, not only work-wise, but things like values that might be affecting people to decide not to have kids. Like something, for example, might be climate change. And I think the crux of the issue is really a value thing, and making outlooks for the future as bright as possible in all aspects seems crucial in encouraging there be a next generation.
All right, hope we can see those changes in the near future. Thank you, Seung-min, so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Great, so we've just heard from a Korean Gen Zer. Now, for a better understanding of what measures might be effective in raising the low birth rate, we asked our viewers what they consider the most important factor when deciding to start a family. And here's what 3 of them had to say. So the Suha says financial stability and ability to raise them. What's the point of loving your kids if you don't have enough money to raise them? Tasmia says it's definitely money because the baby will need shelter, food, medical support, clothes, etc. Jamuo says it all depends on the country you're living in, whether the government or society is suitable for not only giving birth, but also raising children. Not all countries or societies are suitable for raising a child. So based on the comments, we can see that millennials and Gen Z, they believe that cash funding, but also creating an environment where it's comfortable to raise a child is important. Now, as the country with the lowest fertility rate in the world, the Korean government has pledged to intensify its efforts, focusing on the real needs of parents and potential parents. However, this issue isn't unique to Korea, as many parts of the world are grappling with declining birth rates. So ending off, I want to ask you guys, what kind of policies or changes would you like to see in the government's policies to boost the low birth rate?
Well, considering Korea's excessive working hours compared to other countries, it's quite important to allocate time for childcare. Let's take a look at the case in the UK. Well, in Britain, there are several examples of childcare support and flexible working arrangements that actually help parents manage the work and childcare responsibilities. And many British companies offer flexible working hours, allowing parents to adjust their work schedules to meet childcare needs. Some companies even have policies that allow parents to leave work early to pick up their children from their school. This flexibility acknowledges the importance of balancing work and family life. Despite the government's promise to extend daycare hours, parents often work long hours outside home, while children spend significant time in daycare centres, schools and academies, raising questions about whether this qualifies true family time. However, the government is doing their best, making efforts to boost the low birth rate in Korea. So let's stay hopeful for positive changes.
Right, and the government has promised to listen to the parents' voices. So hope we can see those relevant changes. Now, last but not least, what about you, Walter?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Jihyun said, and I think time spent with your family is the most important time. And being able to have that ability to go home and pick up your child rather than leave them at the daycare all day is something that is very important to great parents out there who really want to spend time with their parents. I'm part of a double income family. I know that it's very difficult to manage the times between two workers as well as having a child. So hopefully we look into work-related matters as well, not just money-related matters.
Right, so hope these new measures and the measures that we'll see in the future help create a family-friendly environment here in Korea. And until then, NewsGen is here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Kwon Ji-young.
Have a lovely day.
And Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
And thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.